Let's take a look. So we're bringing a ton of... This is just MDI. I'm just trying to see so we can just get a little bit of a refresher for like all of the new dungeons. So this is... So I'm just trying to make our MDTs as well, like what we did. Okay, so we pull all of this upstairs. Pull everything into the boss with the toads as well. Then...
Has just subscribed.
And
just signed up for your fitness program today. Keep killing it. Excited to start grinding.
Fucking legend, bro. You're gonna get so good gains. Okay, so first pull, 9.6%. Let's go into MDT here. All right, then let's so the individual mobs, they have Scar Soul. Strikes a target. Yeah, so this just does I believe they throw on random targets, if I'm not mistaken. These soul casts. So you have the Scar Souls, which is just a random ability that throws on random mobs. These were kind of dangerous in the past, I remember. You just end up, if I remember, I think they recast it back then. Like if they didn't finish their cast. Or maybe you could do an AoE stop. Not quite sure. Need to check that. And then you have the Disciple. Wings of the... Okay, so frontal cleave. They have a cast time that silences someone. They have a drain cast that sucks someone. And then I remember they have this ascension ritual, and if they finish the cast, the mob actually turns into a witch, but it's M0 HP, I remember, and I think it didn't give count if this finished. And then they have an ability that they apply that makes the target take 25% less damage. This is also purgeable and dispellable. The first bosses, they have a couple different abilities. BFA, Waycrest Manor. There's a couple different ladies that will just cast random bolts on random targets all the time. And there's always one that takes damage, and you keep doing that in a rotation. And the different witches have different abilities. So if you go to Briar, he has... Like, all of them has, like, a random bolt, right? That you interrupt. The Bramble Bolt is physical damage, whereas some of the other ones are magic damage. Which means that this one is, most of the time, not, like, weak one. And I believe... I'm not sure what I think we all, like, had a random cast on Focus. And then you just kick that on cooldown. Pretty much. It was very simple. You just kick those. You have this one, which... is similar to the ability on the first boss in Brackenhide, where it applies a bleed, and it does a lot of damage, initial damage, and the bleed goes away if you get top to 90% HP, similar to Grievous, right? So it's the first boss Brackenhide mechanic. It's just one person that gets targeted, and that person needs to press a strong personal. This has a lot of it. Does a lot of initial damage. And then it has Thorns. Pretty much. So when you attack her, it just deals damage. And then there's this one. Again, just a random cast. A cast on random people. And then he has this Unstable Runic Mark. This one just does... Like, you can see everyone's targeted by it, but you can only see your own. You just spread with that one, and it does quite a lot of damage. It's a curse. So you can dispel it, but it still explodes for damage. All allies within 6 yards, but by dispelling, you of course lose out on the dot damage. And then it has Hour of the Dread. This is the one you need to like keep moving. Like on this boss, you can see I have 1 stack. If you stand still, this stacks up. So you need to constantly move when the malady is up. Otherwise, you just keep stacking it and you take more and more damage. And then you have the worst ability of them all, which is the soul manipulation. It mind controls a target and that you need to kill. And when you kill your friend, he goes back to normal and it's attackable again, right? So that's pretty much how it works. When you are attacking, like the boss that is big, you see the MC here happens. I get mind controlled, but I get broken out instantly. So they are gaining energy when they are big. And they're the only ones that takes damage. So you don't AoE, right? Like AoE is useless because they have a reduced damage hour. So you just single target the one that becomes active, and then you get their special abilities while those are active. And while they are active, they will regen energy. Now, this is only a high key thing and not a low key thing, but when they do reach 100 energy, they will do a cast that's called like a dire ritual. And if this cast goes off, you wipe. So the boss has an enrage. So that's kind of like how it works. Lost Linia, thank you for the 29 months. You think Bear will be okay for next season? In comparison with other tanks, is meh. I have no idea what will be the meta next season, bro. We need to test the M+ when it comes out. No, they do not take reduced damage when they're closer to others. There's always 2 of them that takes reduced damage, and it's HP based. You can see it's always on a rotation. So you go in, you hit Sister Solena, and when she gets to 50%, she faces, she goes to my lady. When she goes 50%, she goes to Briar, and then she goes back to Solena, into my lady, into Briar. So it's just like that. So that's how it works. This is in the next season's dungeon pool. So let's move on to the next boss. Okay, what is our next pull? Let's see here. We have some captains. We have a guard. Bone shaper. Bone shaper. Bone shaper. Bone shaper. And then we pulled the boss. Okay, so next pull. We're gonna be This was downstairs here. Did we get the patrol here? Let me see again. Guard.
Raiko07 has just subscribed.
Okay, we did. We get the. Thank you, Raiko. We did get that one. Wait, oops. Boom, boom. There. Then we added this, and this. Okay. Mechanics again. They give themselves a shield where they take 35% reduced damage. I remember this captain here, they were always destroying the tanks. Very dangerous tank mobs. The guards have a cleave. Do not be in front of these. These are very dangerous. It's 1.1 second cast, but if you track it, you can AoE stop it and it won't recast, right? If I remember correctly. You have these jacked hounds here, which just does tank damage. You have these Thorn Shapers here, which has a couple different abilities. But this is the most important one. Like, first of all, it casts Infected Thorns, which is a debuff application that does a lot of damage to random targets. So you want to ideally kick this one. And then you have the Effigy Reconstruction, and this is a heal, and it heals all nearby Thorn Guards and Jack Towns. And Thorn Guards and Jack Towns are these mobs and these mobs. So if this cast goes off, it just heals them to full. Everything around them. So this one is very important. You can choose to AoE stop this one and kick the Infected Thorns will be my recommendation. And then it has this Soul Fetish, which gives a buff to a target. Well, pretty much, and if that target dies, it pretty much leaves behind a buff to a nearby target that increases the damage done and haste by 20%. So that's pretty much what happens. It's just like an on-death buff that they give to a nearby target when the target affected by Soul Fetish dies. So these Thorn Shapers, they do have a lot of different weird abilities. It's just important to remember that the effigy cannot go off. The Infected Horns you want to kick as much as possible because it's a big debuff application on like a random target. Soul Fetish doesn't matter that much. So yeah, that's kind of like how it works. Yeah, and then there's the Uproot. Dodge that. It knocks you up. Cancels your cast. Be annoying. Okay, so that's the pull. Go in. Pull everything. Everyone is. You can see I kicked the Infected Thorns there. See, there's cleaves going on. Pull the boss. This is the Uproot. You can also stop that, which knocks people up as well. And then this is the effigy. It actually didn't matter if it went off. A lot of bursting stacks. Press Nether Walk. Yeah. And then there's one more mob, which is the mini boss. This is the Matron. And this one also just kind of like claps the tank. Really, it's like a tank clapper. The Thorn Barrage is like a channel. It does damage every 1 second for 6 seconds. While the Thorn Barrage is up, that's like the best time to, like as a tank, pop a personal. And then it does a Splinter Spike, which is just very simple. Let's see it. It will just do a lot of randoms. Here it comes. You can see all of these. This is the Splinter Spike. Just touch it. That's the only thing it does. And here it does the Thorn Barrage like we talked about. Where it's just like sucking the tank. Dealing damage. So that's the abilities of the Matron. And then we have the boss. How do you play with one hand? Oh, it's replay. Yeah, this is a replay. Put it up here. A little bit smaller. And this cast, like I said, it just applies a shield. So they take 35% reduced damage. Then Soulbound Goliath. This boss fight is quite simple. And depending on how strong your tank is, you can either make this fight a lot easier or harder, right? So, wait, let me see. Yes, you can see it has a stacking buff that increases its damage done by 5% every 2 seconds. And this is a stack that it stacks up every 2 seconds, right? You can see it has 25, so that's 25 times 5, right? So this guy has 125% increased damage currently, and you can reset these stacks, which we'll get to in a second, by utilizing the wildfires. There will be some lightning coming down from the sky. You can see here, boom, lightning, and that leaves a fire underground. Now, if you run the boss into these fire puddles, this happens. There will be pulsating AoE damage to the whole group. But his stacks will reset. So it's a question of whether you want more tank damage or group-wide damage. This group-wide damage you of course want to do with like using personals and healing cooldowns. But depending on how strong your tank is, he can obviously play more and more stacks, right? There's another mechanic as well on this fight, which is which one is Soul Thorns. Soul Thorns is one target gets thorned down, cannot control his character, and you just kill that and break him out. While he's inside of it, he takes damage. So that's that mechanic. He does Crush, which is a big heavy tank hit as well. And down here, let me see. Fuck is this? Oh yeah, of course. One more thing to note. There's a weird mechanic. I forgot about this one. When he goes into the fire here, if I'm not mistaken, there is... I think it's when he goes into the fire. Yes. Look here. When he goes into the fire, these fucking souls, they spawn. You can see. And they start going after the threat target. And they're pretty fucking dangerous, these burning souls. And they will just melee attack. So if you're second on threat, they will go after you. This, most cases, is going to be the healer. Because they're not targetable and stuff like that. It's just healing threat that's really happening here. So, and they spawn after you use the AoE ability from the and reset his damage stacks. So, as a healer, you need to watch out. You need to run away after you've been doing the healing. Make sure you're not in melee and you get insta-clapped, because they do kill you. So, that's pretty much that fight. Pretty simple. Nothing crazy. Okay, then we pull some trash in on our cooldowns. But then we pull the corner pack. And the first pack of maggots. Okay. Boom. Then we chain this in. There we go. And in this pull, we have looked at some of these mobs, like the Thorn Guard. It just has an enrage that makes it increase damage. A tank smash that applies a bleed, and when they die, they shatter, inflicting physical damage to all nearby enemies and causing them to bleed. That one didn't really do too much damage, I think. Let me see when it happens. I want to see when the Thorn Guard dies. Okay, let's see. A Thorn Guard dies now. Yeah, that ability I don't think exists anymore. The Shatter ability. No one got applied when he died. Unless... Aha, I see. Wait. I think this is the undeath effect. It's this one. Okay, so when he dies, he puts the fucking shit on the ground. This big circle. Just dodge it. Okay, so that's the Shadow ability. Now I remember. Okay, we have these maggots. And these peasants here are... He's infected, right? And that means that when he dies, he spawns maggots. And he injects the tank with some glob damage. And these maggots here, they do a spit. Really important to AoE stop these. There's just a lot of maggots that do a spit cast on... So you want to AoE stop those. It does a lot of initial damage, and you also rot down. So make sure you stop those. They will try and look for a what's it called? A mob to infest. So it's important to also interrupt that infest cast. But I believe not every maggot has this infest ability, if I'm not mistaken. It's only... Yeah, oh yeah, exactly. Okay, look. I remember there's an indicator. only some of the maggots have this infestability, and it's the one that has this parasitic buff on them. So you can see here on the plater that there's only currently one maggot that has this parasitic ability on it. So this one is the only maggot with the infest cast. As you will see here, it will cast infest in a second. There we go. You'll see it. And if it does cast infest, it will infest that target, similar to what this peasant is, which makes it infected. So one maggot will get sucked up by the target it infects, so the maggot will go away, but then when that target who's infected then dies, you will get 3 maggots spawning afterwards, which will not give count. So kind of important that that doesn't happen. Obviously, you're going to lose quite a lot of time having to kill off 3 maggots after the last mob is dead. And you lose count from 1 maggot on top of that. So make sure you look for that buff, the parasitic maggot cast there, and make sure you stop the infest. Okay. Then we do next pull. Next pull is pretty much like everything in the game. Then I believe we chain this later on. Exactly. Okay, so pretty massive pull, you can say. I mean, like everything so far in this MDI run has just been with bosses. We did look at the maggot casts. Look for the ones that has the parasitic buff. Make sure you stop the infected on those. There's this pig. It just does a tank smack. That's it. These pigs are pretty chill. Then you have like the scariest mobs really is if a lot of spits goes off, it's kind of dangerous. So just trying to stop those or press really strong personals. And then you have the Revelers, which does a punch, physical damage punch on tank 2. They don't really have any mechanics. You have the Steward, which does a tank smack called Meet the Rampage, and it has this Dinner Bell cast, which does physical damage and silences all enemies that get hit by it. And then you have these boys, which is the Gorgers. It's fucking disgusting. Look at him. It's like a ghoul, but there's like a pig head on it. Fucking gross. They have... they do a Reg Cone. You dodge that. And then it leaps always to the target that is furthest away. And it attacks all nearby enemies that it lands on within 5 yards. And it inflicts physical damage, and it applies a bleed for 5 seconds. So these mobs are a little bit scary. But you can't go out and bait these with, a personal. Track the cooldown of the ability, go outside, use a dwarf, use a strong personal or whatever, get cleansed by the evoker, whatever comp you have, right? Get a bop, something like that. They can be outplayed pretty easily. So that's pretty much the abilities that all of these mobs have. Let's see them unfold as well. And one thing as well, the door is closed right here. Why we did this is because there's a lot of maggots and a lot of random spits and a lot of random damage. That's why we were just staying here while Robin, as a tank, goes around, pulls everything, and then we engage the boss. You can see some infest cast, but it doesn't really matter if they go off. We have more than enough count. There's the Dinner Bell. It is kickable, by the way. Which is the circle on the ground, right? So you stop that. You can see that because we're stacked, we have a lot of bleeds, but it doesn't fucking matter. We take all of it. We press so strong personals here. I have infinite leech. Everything is just dying, right? That's pretty much that pull. Just got completely demolished. Taking the Dinner Bell. You see spits going off. Maris has 2 debuffs, and you can see like he's taking down quite a lot. This is MDI key levels, so this is not really qualified as like a high key. So you need to be very careful with these maggots. This Dinner Bell looks like it has a very short cast time, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, let's look at the boss now. So we have the boss, which is Ral. Very Very beautiful boy right here. Very important that the tank, there's always, not necessarily tank, there needs to be someone within melee range at all times. So this boss does not move from his position. He's always stuck here. And there's you can see right now Robin is going out and pulling something, and then Maris is tanking this boss instead. While Robin is going and pulling. Because if no one is in melee, he will do consume all, which does a fuck ton of damage. Will most likely get completely clapped. He does tenderize, which you can bait, of course. It will target a player. And he does that 3 times back to back. And then he does call servant afterwards. So you need to dodge that, right? You can just wait and see when he casts it from the boss. So you can see how it visually looks. It's like a green cone. Here, you can see tenderize. And this is also the timing where Robin goes. So he does tenderize, boom, then we bait, tenderize, and then he does tenderize again. So that's it. You just dodge this. Pretty easy, pretty simple mechanics. And then he does call servants. And that ability is pretty much him summoning some servants to assist him. And the only thing that these servants do is that they are coming over to join this guy, and then he tries to eat them. It's pretty similar to Neltharion Lair in one way. And if he does consume them, he gets a damage increase. That increases damage on by 5%. And we actually didn't care about this back then when we did MDI. Like, this boss was so easy that it didn't really matter. So we just let them come in, and then some died, some got eaten. Honestly, it didn't matter. Then he does this rotten expulsion, which is just him spawning some blobs. And let me see if I can remember. Yeah, and these blobs, they have an on-death effect that just does a green puddle on the ground. You can see here, and it explodes. Just dodge that. So these are completely useless mobs, really. And then there's the rotten expulsion. Rather expels a wave of rancid food, inflicting each expulsion remains at impact point. Yeah, I mean, this was just the one, like this one. The puddle on the ground he does when he summons his blobs. This one, rotten expulsion. Just be careful, like, there's a chance that this one can land on you, the initial, if you're standing in the way that he's facing doing that cast. So, this was one of the easiest bosses there was. You can see right now he has 4 stacks, 20% damage increase. It was not that impactful, like the mobs got eaten. Because all damage is avoidable, right? Like, there's no damage on the group anyway. So, it was just tank damage. So it was usually like whatever, but maybe they're going to be reworking the boss fight a little bit when it comes out, right? Who knows? So that's that. This is obviously seasonal affix, so that we can skip. Okay. Then we move down. There was a reason why most people skipped the things down in this area. Bone Shapers are generally like pretty high, annoying mobs. High keys, they have a lot of abilities. Then you have this one, Matron. She had a lot of dangerous abilities. She has a volley, which is interruptible, if I remember correctly. And you have the Dreadmark, which does a lot of damage that applies to the group. So, but I don't remember if you could line of sight this. But anyway, this was a very annoying mob. That's why it's skippable. Captains are pretty slow mobs as well. And then you have the Mark Sister. Yeah, Runic Mark, a rune that explodes. I remember the Darkened Blade. This one completely destroyed at least warrior tanks back then. It was a ton of shadow damage. Like the Mark Sisters tanks were very scared off. I remember that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Then you have the Diviner here, which does a Soul Bolt. And what else does it do? Yeah, it consumes fragments of all nearby enemies. It gets a damage increase based off that. So that's we skipped all of this, and then we just went down and we did the Diviner, one Mark Sister, Soul Charmer. True. Okay, Soul Charmer does it does a volley and does random bolts. You can rotate the bolt cast and you make sure you kick the volley. The volley is like the most dangerous one, right? AoE group wide damage, and it places some candles on the ground. It's gonna be a little bit of it's like a small rune around it, and while any mob is inside of that, those mobs takes 50% reduced damage. So important that when the Soul Charmer casts that is that you move the mobs out of it, right? So you can Soul Volley, that's the volley cast, and then this is the candles. Boom, you can see we're dragging out. It looks like this. You see these candles here. We drag the mobs out so they don't take reduced damage, and that's pretty much it. Kick the volley. The Fetiche is like whatever usually, and then Soul Bolt cast on a random player. There's a lot of random piss casts. The candles from the Soul Charmer is really annoying, and here you can see this was the Soul Fetiche that got dropped off. So a mob that had Soul Fetiche died and then gave the haste and damage increase to the remaining mob that was alive, which is the Soul Charmer, and you can purge these off, but it's 5 stacks. So that's why the cast right now is it's a faster cast, right? It needs to just be quick, faster kick. Then there's the boss, Lord and Lady Waycrest. This was one of those bosses where Reflect was ridiculously strong. Like, it was really strong, Reflect. You don't have the lady in the beginning of the fight. You only have the boy up. So we can start with his mechanics. He will target with someone with you can see here this ability right there. There's a wasting trike on the tank. There you can see. This is the Reflect. Boom. This claps him so hard. It's like a debuff that just smacks him. So like tank damage was really strong when he had a Reflect, and then he will target someone with like the boss will target someone with a poison ability. That also gets dispelled. You see it's on Jimmy here. And it leaves a puddle on the ground. It's on Jimmy, you can see here. He goes out, gets dispelled, comes back in. You can melt this. You can banish it, invis it, pre-AMS it, pre-cloak it. There's a lot of things you could do. So that's pretty much that. This is the tank ability. Big tank smash, does a lot of damage, but if you reflect it, obviously, it just kills himself instead. This is the application, like the cast on a random target that can be melted, immune, all that good stuff. And then there's the poo-poo on the ground that remains afterwards. Make sure you run out. And you need to kill this guy. You can see here, he has transferred vitality. So every time this guy goes to, I believe it's, when does the boss start sucking it? Oh my god. Need to remember when it was. The percentage, I don't remember the percentage exactly. Does anyone remember? I believe it's but anyway, when he goes low, he gets healed up. And that increases his damage done by 3% haste, and this stacks. And so that's this ability. She pretty much uses a portion of her own health. So the boss, you can see that the boss has so much HP, but in the beginning. But then she heals the... Maybe you can see it here a little bit more accurately when the boss gets sucked. I think it's like around 40% or something. I can look that up. But anyway, you keep doing that. The boss gets healed, and that happens 3 times. And then after the third time, when he has 3 stacks of this ability, the lady joins him in battle. You can see here. Now we have both up. And while she's over there, by the way, it's not like she's AFK. She casts this ability, and during this ability, she pretty much just randomly throws abilities and does damage to people while she's there. So like a lot of random piss damage all the time. And then that you can't do anything about. And then let's see here. When she casts this thing here, she does like there's just some puddles you need to dodge. You can see here. She also does this. So random damage from the boss, from the lady, and then some dodge mechanics. That's it. And then when she joins you in battle, it's also a pretty easy fight. You just rotate kicks. I don't remember if it's on tank only, the cast that she's doing. It just... You can see here, I get debuff, I go out, I get dispelled, go back in. It looks like it's only tank, the Wrecking Cord. So this is also another simple boss. And then we go to last boss, which is the last count of the dungeon. Bring all of these onto the last boss. Now we are 1 count off, and that is because we had Awakened, and I believe Awakened affix did give count, if I'm not mistaken. Right? Didn't they give 4 count and shit? So that's why we're 99 here. But yeah, anyway, you have the Gloom Horrors. These mobs were... They did hurt quite a bit, actually. They do Shadow Claw, which you could AoE stop. It wouldn't recast, but it does a fuck ton of damage to the tank, especially if they're like synced up and like all of them does it at the same time. I remember this was also reflectable as a warrior. And then they will also leap to the furthest target away, similar to one of the to this mob here that we played earlier in the dungeon. These Gorgers. So you can bait this as being the furthest target away. And therefore press a strong personal, magic immunity, anything really, to avoid taking this leap damage. And you don't want to be stacked either, because it does damage around them too. So this is how we dealt with that. We ran through with Skystep, and we did a safety ring of peace to make them stack up. We start hitting, and then with the ring of peace goes away. We start setting up here. I go out to the side to guarantee that I'm the furthest target away, and I press Nether Walk. You can see, and I soaked all the leaves with immunity, and they did nothing. And then we just start blasting. This is the Shadow Claw that on a high key will definitely do a lot of damage if they're all synced up at the same time. You can see we're also tracking the leap cooldown here. A little bit scuffed way of doing it back then, but that's how we did it. So yeah. Then we have the last boss, Goraktul. Don't mind these spiders and shit. This is the corrupted Awakened affix. So this won't be there when you play it next season. So let's see what we have here. Goraktul. At 100 energy, he releases some dark energy, inflicting shadow damage to all enemies, and all slaves that are resurrected. All Death Touch slavers are resurrected, brought back to the max health, and any crowd control effect on them are dispelled. Yes, I remember this. So this boss will summon some adds throughout the fight, which does an ability. These are the ones here, the Death Touch slavers that he will summon. Which is like it just sucks one of the players, like a random target, and it stuns them, pretty much. Like, you cannot move while you're getting sucked. And it does, inflicts 70% of max health and shadow damage over 5 seconds. So this is apparently a percentage damage. This is kind of weird. It's not like a flat amount, but Anyway, they have that ability, and they also have the leap ability. And then there's the boss. He does a random casts that you just interrupt. I believe the cast is on a random target, but it doesn't cast that often. So if you don't have a spider that you need to interrupt, you can see some frag here. It's very easy. So this is 100 energy. He does Dread Essence. So if there's any of these mobs up, then it heals him. Now, I remember there was one specific thing that you could outplay it, guys. If there's one alive, it will get healed to full. But if the mob is currently casting Death Lens, it will not get healed. This was a weird interaction. You can see it's casting Death Lens and then it did not get healed. So you can delay stopping it, wait a little bit until the cast is finished, and then it would not get healed from his ability to Dread Essence. It was a weird interaction, but that's how you did it. And once you've killed them, they're on the ground. Now, it's important that even though you kill these slavers, when he goes to 100 energy, he will resurrect them and heal them to full, unless you pick up the torches that spawns and then use your extra action button to then throw it. There's like some vials that will be there that you pick up and then use your extra action button and then you throw it on the location of the ads. So that's pretty much it. Let me see if I can show one of those when they do spawn. Don't actually remember how they do spawn. Oh yeah, there it was. You see there's another one there as well. To my right, I believe. Is that how they look? Oh, no, okay. Sorry, it's over here. Look. This is the one. So they look like that. You walk over these. You get an extra action button. And then you make sure that you use it on the corpses of these slavers. And you just delayed it. As long as you could, of course. Like, you just send it before this cast finished. So here you want to send it on the slaver on the ground. Otherwise, as you see here, the slaver resurrected again. We obviously didn't care because it was like lower key level MDI, the boss is low, like fuck it, like don't go over there and pick up the vial now, because like fuck the loss of uptime, right? But in a high key, and if you obviously want to play it correctly. That's pretty much Waycrest Manor. What do you guys think? Hype dungeon? How you rate it? Initial impression? 1 to 10. What do you think? How cool? What do you mean 0? It's cool as long as I fixed it on the doors. Yes. So back in the day, like in MDI it was set, in tournament it was always set. But unfortunately, on the M+ rotation on live servers, you had a couple different openings. So in MDI, you always walked up the stairs and then to the left. Now, there's an opening on the left immediately. There's an opening on the right immediately. And there's an opening on the top left and top right. So there was a lot of different openings in the dungeon that just randomly happened. And some worse than others. Some paths were just slower than other paths. And it was ideal if you had the top path where you walked up and then left. So I hope they're gonna do that, where it's always gonna be set in M+, because it sucks if it's not. Yeah, you always want a top left, which is the one that we had in MDI. Are you pushed to talk? No, I'm not. But wait, let me just fix something. I guess I was moving away from my microphone. Need to up the sensitivity a bit. There we go. Maybe it's because I have a fan in the background. I think that's maybe what you can hear. Okay, so that was Waycrest Manor.